NFT games are making their way onto Steam in all their broken, buggy, and abandoned glory. And that is definitely a bad thing, especially since they're not supposed to be on Steam. It's against the rules, you see, but that's not enough to stop the NFTs slipping by. Hey there, this is the 6th episode in the series, and I think it's time for a rebrand. The more I look into these NFT games, the more I see just how many aren't even playable. In fact, so many of them don't have any intentions on ever becoming playable since they've just been abandoned. So, welcome to the newly named series where I try to play all the NFT games on Steam so you don't have to. Yay, rebrands. Hopefully the new and improved title that I totally spent more than 3 seconds to think of should give a more accurate picture of what this series is like. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the first game for this episode. Animo Stars Arena is a game, okay, good to know, that blends adorable animal pilots with mechs, and while the screenshots seem fairly generic, they at the very least put some effort into the trailer, which is more than I can say for a lot of other NFT games I've covered. The actual mecha and animal aesthetic look pretty fun. They have this plastic toy look that complements the build-your-own-machine type thing that they're going for. Animo Stars Arena is currently unreleased, with no release date in sight, but they do have a demo that we can look at. Also, full disclosure, this episode features no released game. It's all demos and empty promises, so you could probably see why there was a need for a rebrand. Now weirdly enough, the end of the trailer says that Animo is currently live on Kickstarter, and I did take a look at it, and it didn't go too well. You see, Animo Stars Arena had a pledge goal of 230,000 Australian, but barely reached even a tenth of that in backers, only raising a little under 26k from 36 backers, before being promptly cancelled on June 19th, 2025, which was only 9 days after their last update on June 10th, which was just about a live stream from the Future Games show. Looking at their Twitter, they posted a video message saying that they were postponing their Kickstarter, and will be relaunching in the future. So it is apparently still in development, but nothing else other than that. Now looking at their Twitter, website, and even their Kickstarter, I didn't see anything on NFTs or crypto, so I was kinda hopeful that they maybe moved away from that. But unfortunately, no. Animo Stars Arena does have an NFT collection, and according to this little snippet, plans on having the NFTs also acting as a battle pass, as well as having additional perks for holders, so on and so forth. Yada yada, pay to win garbage. Also on their Epic Store page, which is not available in Australia, they need to disclose how blockchain, NFTs, or crypto is being used. And they have only a single paragraph stating that the economy data and database are leveraging blockchain tech to host it, and that's about it. Now I don't know if this is them trying to hide the fact that Animo is going to be an NFT game, or maybe they just forgot, but if they are trying to hide it, then that is obviously pretty scummy. Their NFTs are predictably the mechs and all their individual parts, with the most expensive being the creatively named Animo 2465, sitting at around 15.3k, which is about 306 copies of Clair Obscure Expedition 33. That is going to be the metric I'm using for this episode, mainly because it's what I've been playing recently. It's a really good game, would definitely recommend it. One final thing to note about Animo is apparently it's made up of devs with experience, working at Activision, Warner Bros. Games, Crytek, Epic, and Guerrilla Games, all fairly big studios. But with all the background checks out of the way, let's play the demo, or in their words, proof of concept for Animo Stars Arena. Hello, this is our character. There was no character creator, just some warning that this game is in early access, even though the store page says otherwise, and here we are. So we got a hub with a bunch of characters that have slightly different models than their portraits, which kind of annoyed me a little, but it's whatever. For some reason, this area gave me Kuga Bash vibes. I don't know why. It's not as bad as that game yet, but I don't know. Anyways, I talked to Mr. General here and he instructs me on the tutorial, which is to just go up here, pull a switch, go back and talk to him. Then, do it again. Tutorials, baby! Just look at that run cycle. If he leans just a little bit forward, he can do a Naruto run. Also, I'm pretty sure that is the run cycle because pressing shift makes you walk for some reason, or as he puts it, alter your speed. He then instructs you to get some free firepower by talking to this dude. He gives you a selection of 3 mechs to choose from. We got Spider with a Y, must be the cool guy, Breaker, and Infiltrator. We don't get an explanation of the differences, so I have no idea which does what. But I pick Infiltrator because I assume it's the sniper class. I go back to Mr. General and he begins to wax poetic about the weapons or something. Choose your tools, customize your look. You got it, buddy. From there, we have to talk to a frog guy who instructs us to, you guessed it, flip another switch, but this time we're much further away, so it takes even longer. Tutorials, baby! Can you believe there's 3 more switches planned? Boy, am I excited for those future tutorials. Anyways, he tells us to go to the loadout station so we can do some customization on our newly chosen mech. Awesome, let's see how in-depth the customization... Oh, there's nothing here. I click on the buttons and nothing happens. I exit and re-enter and nothing. Also, why does this say spider now? Did I not pick infiltrator? Also, why is it spelled with an I and not a Y like they originally had? Is this game broken too? Are you serious? It's a demo. Whatever. Unfortunately, I can't continue, so I just click around the menus. We got a few options here, although Pilot and Battle Pass are locked. The play button works, so hopefully we can do it without the tutorial. And Mech, which just states it's under construction with a link to a website. I go to the settings, find out the resolution is apparently not correct, and I change it, but it doesn't change anything as you'll see shortly. But not before I attempt to back out of the menu with the escape button, which just loops to the mech screen I had earlier? What? I can't escape from the menu. Every time I try to leave, it's like, no, go to website please. The only thing I can do is hard quit, so that's what I do. But I'm not giving up. I launch it up again, and unfortunately, I have to do the tutorial. Again, does this demo not have a save system yet? I suppose it is just a proof of concept. Anyways, I go through all that hoopla again, pick a mech, breaker this time, and proceed to the loadout. Now silly me, I didn't notice this button on the top left of the screen. Consider that the content creator debuff. Clicking it creates a generic loadout, where you have access to everything. In other words, the whole picking a starter kit is just for proof of concept's sake. Or in a more cynical outlook, all these items that are currently available will become unavailable to you once the full game releases, if ever, presumably to be paywalled behind NFTs. Looking at the customization, there actually is a decent amount here, which is nice. You have an option of cabin, which seems to affect your health and armor values, although some of them just seem to be straight upgrades, like Skyhammer has more stats than any other cabin type, so potential pay to win there. We got the engine, which further affects health, armor, and speed. It also changes your class type as well, either from Spider with an I, Walker, or Vehicle. I don't know if there's a difference between the 3, but I'm willing to bet no. We have our choice from the left and right side weapons, which obviously affects the damage stat, but picking the Spider with a Y's armaments sets my damage to 0. Alright, gotta try that out, and picking any other weapon alongside the minigun doesn't change the damage stat at all. I hope this is just a visual bug, but I go with the minigun and a shotgun. We can choose our pilot, which is separate from our actual character and is just a cosmetic change, so it doesn't affect our stats, which is good. I pick Whale because that's who I assume NFT devs want playing their pay-to-win game. We can pick a mech color, I pick Nebula, and a bumper, where I can give my mech a little crotch guard, you know, to protect the family jewels and whatnot. Finally, we can pick our skill, A and B. We got options for a dash, shield, mortar, and stealth. We got no description on any of these skills, so who the fuck knows, but I picked mortar and stealth. And I finish my loadout. I try to rename it, but the button is purely cosmetic, and I create a generic second loadout because why not? On to the next tutorials, which, can you guess what it'll be? That's right, more switches! Hooray! You get introduced to the inventory system, which is currently under construction, where you can, I assume, find all your NFTs. We flip another switch, oh boy, just one more to go, and we can finally pilot our mech. We're given a task to go to the firing range and destroy 3 targets. So I do that. I can't wait to try out the guns. Holy camera shake, Batman. That is terrible. I don't know if it's coming through on the recording, but shooting the minigun actually made me feel sick. That is horrible. Alright, enough of that, but at least the damage wasn't 0, so hey, it was just a visual UI bug. At least shooting the shotgun isn't as bad. Anyways, now that we're in the mech, let's actually try the other controls. We got a double jump, which according to this little hint, spamming it will cause it to be disabled. But I don't think they've implemented it yet, since that's exactly what I'm doing. We got E and R, which are the skill buttons, and notably not the skills that I picked. I'm fairly certain I picked stealth and mortar, but that doesn't matter because they don't do anything. Well, except for making this noise. We also have a boost with left shift, which also doesn't do anything, and that's it. This demo barely functions. The UI is buggy, there's no save feature, so you constantly have to do the tutorial over and over again every time you relaunch the game. The camera shake is horrendous, and on top of all that, I cannot escape the firing range. That's right, I finished the mission, but there's no exit. The front entrance is blocked by a red force field. Look, I can even see my character doing nothing, which means I can't finish the tutorial, which further means I can't flip the last switch.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just
Pain. Anyways, because of that, I go into the menu and this time just for laughs, I actually click the browser link. Warning! Potential security risk ahead. Firefox detected a potential security threat and did not continue. Jesus, alright. I don't get that warning all too often, and I'm not about to potentially risk my info for a stupid proof of concept buggy demo. So, let's just go back. Also, without fail, I easily managed to recreate the go back bug. Nice. For a demo that's only a small snippet of a game, it has an insane amount of bugs. It's truly impressive. Regardless, I continue on and click play, so I can at least see what the game is like with an active opponent. Clicking quick play, we get launched into a 1v1 bot match, and hey, at least I remembered my loadout, my spider with a Y. Or maybe it's with an I. Why do I even try? I think I'm just gonna cry. Bars! Anyways, unsurprisingly, the gameplay really isn't all that different. Also, I keep getting notifications that item A is not set. I'm assuming it's the skill buttons, which I'm certain I did, so I don't know what that's about, and I also randomly heal every so often. Zero idea. Things just happen in this game. It's kinda scary. Here's a funny thing though, you can just bring up the loadout screen while you're in a match and just casually make one as you're getting shot. But I assume it's mainly so you can switch between loadouts. Once you die, that is. Also, it doesn't remove the loadout overlay after you die, so add that to the bug counter. But hey, the E button, which is set to the dash skill on this mech, actually works, so that's cool. The R shield button though, still does nothing. So when they gave you the option of 4 skills, in practice, it was really only 1 skill. Talk about illusion of choice, and that's it. I finished the match and it kicks us out into the main hub, but this time, no more tutorials. In fact, it's as if the tutorial never existed. The switches remain unpulled, and this door is now permanently closed. Proof of concept. Lastly, I tried Team Rumble, which is a 5v5. The bots go nuts, and it's quite a sight. If this were a Flash game back when they existed, this could have been fun, but I'd say the standards and expectations are much higher now, especially for something that expects players to pay real money for battle passes and stuff. But that's all there is to Animo Stars Arena. I mean, it is just a proof of concept, but it was incredibly buggy. I could see how this didn't generate any interest at all. I mean, the visuals were fine, I guess. Just ignore this untextured VTOL? I don't know my aircrafts. Unless this is supposed to be Vanta Black, if so, hey, good job. And before someone tells me this is all just store-bought assets. The actual gameplay was also fine in before store-bought assets, but that's it. It's a proof of concept. But before I leave, just one final bug. I managed to get stuck in the stage border. Don't even know how it happened. Don't question it. Actually, one more thing. Here is what I had to listen to throughout the entirety of the match. This constant ringing noise. Hell yeah. Decimated is a post-apocalyptic cyberpunk third-person online survival game that, as you might have guessed, isn't out yet. On Steam anyways. It is released on Epic, but this series isn't about the Epic Game Store, although looking at just how many NFT games are getting through, it's starting to feel like it. The game looks to be just your generic open world survival game, but slightly futuristic, which isn't a bad thing I suppose. Most early access survival games tend to be more modern, less sci-fi. So who knows, this could be good, but considering they're leaning way more towards how you can earn their crypto coin and how amazing the crypto is, I'm gonna assume the quality of this game is much less of a priority. Now speaking of their coin, which is named Dio, it is doing how you'd expect, which makes it all the more weird that they continue to flaunt it in all their social media posts. a crypto coin whose value is less than that of a penny, which is already a pretty useless coin. Interestingly, they had a straight line increase here. Definitely nothing sussy going on there, but eventually the market caught up in the following months. Decimated, by the way, is still in alpha, even though apparently the game had been in full production since 2022. Not too experienced in game development, but damn is that a long time. Especially since Fracture Labs, who are the developers, also managed to raise $4.1 million in seed funding for the development of Decimated, as well as money from their NFT collections, on top of $30 million in private token sales. Wonder where all the money is going to. Definitely nothing sus going on there. Their NFTs, by the way, are just these generic pixel soldier mercenary guys looking angrily to the right while standing in front of one of 5 or so different backdrops, which you can purchase for about 404 copies of Expedition 33. What these guys will do in the game? Well, currently, with it, you can have access to the leaderboard, and you're poof in-game. Ooh, how fancy. Future utility is going to be your typical in-game items and perks, and considering this is a PvP game, yeah, it's just gonna be pay to win. Now, to their credit, Fracture Labs, at the very least, haven't abandoned the game, with Decimated still getting updates, with their recent update on July 9th finally adding squad invites, proximity chat, a kill yourself button, a revive system, and an enemy health bar. 3 years in development and $34 million plus, baby. And even though this game isn't out on Steam, we do have people talking about it on Steam, with someone pointing out the NFT aspect, with the developer actually responding with a link to their clarification statement for Steam. Let's read what it says. Oh. Okay. Get pranked, I guess. There's another complaining that the game is unplayable, with the developer response being that the game has a steep learning curve and that it becomes easy if you know what you're doing. Yeah, no shit. But it doesn't address any of this guy's concerns at all. And my favorite thread from 2021, which compares this game to Star Citizen, which might be true, we just need to wait 7 more years, and if it's still an alpha, then yeah it is. One more thing I wanted to check out are these review scores, apparently having an 8.4 on Metacritic, which is pretty impressive for an alpha. Let's see what they have to say. So much fun with Cyberpunk world, great graphic and gameplay. You need survival on and kill your enemy. 10 out of 10. Good Web3 game I play for this month, hoping for more mission and weapon spawn, keep growing Decimated. 10 out of 10. Is this a meme game? Servers are empty, nothing to do, could hardly call it a game at all. 0 out of 10. And finally, pure pay to win game. Look at their Discord and see the positive reviews are from people with financial incentive. These devs made a purely pay to win game. Want guns or a car? Just use real money. 0 out of 10. I mean, if that doesn't say it all. Crazy how an alpha game has microtransactions. Maybe this game is Star Citizen 2.0 after all. Anyways, nothing else to say about the game really. The gameplay trailer looks like every other survival game and looks like ass. $34 million, baby. But it's still an alpha, so whatever I guess. Whether this actually releases on Steam is anyone's guess. But with that said, let's move on to the next game. Battle Drones Red Rock Resistance is a tactical, fast-paced, top-down drone shooter set in New Mexico. Defend yourself against the ominous intentions of the AI. Ha! Very funny. I'll give it to them. It's a unique-ish premise, maybe, at least compared to most other NFT games, so good for them. They have 2 trailers, and to be fair, it's honestly pretty fun trailers. One of them is presented as a TV ad where this old guy here is singing a humorous song with a warning that doesn't accept any responsibility for any accidents.
Come on down and get your rotors, load your guns and start your motors. Bring the wife and tell the fellers, see Solomon. Yeah, I got drones for all ye pilots. Some be slick and some be stylish. So be quick to hit the skies with Solomon.
Hey, they put effort into the presentation, so already better than 99% of NFT games. Yeah, the bar is really low. It does show some gameplay, and by that I mean a split second of gameplay, and it doesn't look particularly amazing. Looks pretty comparable to a Flash game back in the day, but not as good. Now, even though this game is coming soon, we luckily get a demo so we can check out what they have planned for the future. Now that's all well and good, you know, there's a game there with a wild and wacky premise. Drones, AI, you know, wacky. But of course, NFTs. Why and what the hell are they? Going into their website, they don't try to hide their plans for tokenization, which is odd since they only plan on releasing the game on Steam and not the prominent NFT cesspool that is the Epic Game Store. Says a lot about the Epic Game Store, honestly. But Battle Drones plan on revolutionizing the entertainment industry by utilizing tokenization in the Battle Drones IP through gaming, comic series, and collectible assets. Yeah, good luck with that. I'm sure the whole world would absolutely love to spend upwards of 4,718 copies of Expedition 33 to collect the most generic and bland JPEGs ever conceived, so that they can do absolutely nothing with it because it's just a randomly generated JPEG with no utility whatsoever. It will never not be funny to me how we as a species managed to somehow make something worse than Beanie Babies. The human mind truly has infinite potential. Now, not to be a downer or anything, but I don't really think Battle Drones is going to be doing any kind of revolutionizing. In fact, I don't think they're going to be doing anything at all. A quick look at their Twitter and they've basically been radio silent since last year, with the most recent activity on Twitter being a repost on how AI and crypto is good for gaming, and before that, several ominous warnings that the game is coming to iOS and Android, so mobile users beware. Their YouTube channel's last video was posted over 2 years ago with very little interest garnered. That pesky YouTube algorithm is to blame, I'm sure. And on Steam, their last news post was on April of 2023, with absolutely no one in the discussion page for this game at all, with the dev being the only poster. Ouch. Not even NFT bros care about this one. So needless to say, I don't think Battle Drones is going to be doing anything, which is good for us. The less NFT garbage the better. Now, one last thing before we get to the demo. I found out that Battle Drones is a New Zealand-based dev. Congratulations, New Zealand, you're on the map. Probably not for the reason you were hoping for, though. Alright, let's get to the demo. Battle Drones. We got a nice logo with some nice music. Let's go. Are you serious? Are you fucking serious right now? How? How does this keep happening? For all of you watching, I don't plan for the second launchable game in these videos to just not work. For the last, I don't even know how many videos at this point, the second game being broken has been completely unintentional. I don't plan for that to happen, so how? How? Is this game not a single player game? Why is there a server that this game needs to be connected to? Are you fucking serious? It's a demo for a single player game. How? Why? Why? To the Grave, the Battle for Faenora is an upcoming real-time strategy RPG, drawing inspiration from classics like Final Fantasy Tactics and Ogre Battle. They're modernizing the elements that made them unforgettable. Frankly speaking though, the trailer is horrible. It's extremely basic, and the action in them has so much camera shake it's enough to give me a headache. But I suppose they can be forgiven since this trailer was mocked up in 2023 and directs us to a proof of concept demo in summer of 2023. But spoiler alert, there isn't a demo available, but they do have a release date of 2025, nothing more than that. Their description for To the Grave has a lot of words that basically tell us nothing, like we're modernizing the elements, which I would certainly hope so since Final Fantasy Tactics released in 1997 and Ogre Battle in 1993. Games have come a long way since then. Our multiplayer approach will provide a gaming experience as deep and engaging as it is unique. How so? You mind explaining any of it? Giving some examples maybe? If it's anything like the trailer, it looks pretty bad to me. Join the revolution! Eons of oppression have sparked a revolution against tyranny. No, really? What a twist! Just your typical run-of-the-mill fantasy setting about oppression and a monarchy, etc, etc. And a call to try out their proof-of-concept demo that doesn't exist. In the final game, you'll experience the full thrill of building your army and playing with friends. In the final form, okay, that's different I suppose, you will engage in cinematic battles where you will use skills and items, equip your soldiers and control your troops in each mission, pushing back the oppressors. Do you see what I mean? It's a lot of words to basically say nothing. Nothing but the most generic, this is a game, this is how a game works type of explanation. Nothing about it stands out or sounds like it's modernizing anything at all. Although, to be honest, none of this matters because they've probably given up on this specific game. If you go to their website, you immediately get hit with a strategically nostalgic, tactically innovative. Pioneering the next frontier of digital entertainment. Pretty sure none of that is true, but NFT devs really like the word tactical, don't they? They must think if they say it enough times, it must magically make their painfully basic and generic gameplay sound more in-depth than it actually is. Also, love how they say the integration of Web3, i.e. blockchain, is completely optional. right after they say it enhances the game experience. In other words, if you don't interact with it, you will have a worse experience, 100% guaranteed. But anyways, more importantly, scrolling down, we see these guys are instead working on another game, To the Grave, The Wildlands of Faenora, where the alpha demo for it is available. Now I don't know which came first, but considering that the Battle of Faenora supposedly had a demo in 2023 and nothing came of it, with the devs having since moved on to Wildlands, I'm just gonna go ahead and say that they probably abandoned it. But that's not all either. When you look at their Twitter, they apparently have a third game, The Hunters of Faenora, launching soon. Crazy that these guys have multiple games in development, yet none of them have even passed the alpha stage. And what's even more crazy than that, they already have pay to win in the form of NFTs, or more specifically, one NFT copied 200 times. Alistair the Fell Knight, which was probably given out for free at some point since there was no price amount when it was traded, so at least no one spent money on these, I hope. Although you can, if you wanted to, just look at that juicy make offer button. But at least we get a quick look on how pay to win the future of Faenora will be, so that's something. Anyways, needless to say, the battle for Faenora is probably, most likely, dead. The other games though, maybe I'll cover in a later episode. Who knows? But that's enough of Faenora. Let's move on to the final game for this episode. Kaidro, Clan Battles, Open Beta, is an unreleased, near-isometric multiplayer action role-playing game. Now, it doesn't seem like Kaidro has any plans on going into an early access state, meaning once this open beta period is over, I'm assuming it'll be straight into a full release, which I find a bit odd since on the description they're instead talking about an alpha release being imminent. So, which is it? Is it an alpha or open beta? Those are two very different points on the development pipeline. Regardless though, they have this demo for us, which is also weird. Is it common for an open beta of a full online free-to-play game to be categorized as a demo? Boss Fighters did this too, and they got away with blatantly advertising their crypto coin. And you also can't submit reviews for demos, since they're not technically out yet. So, is this some weird loophole that they're abusing? I don't know. Someone fill me in. Anyways, Kaidro is part of a larger multimedia universe with a manga, audiobook, and an upcoming animated series. And, to be honest, the art looks amazing. Look at the first trailer for Kaidro. It has proper animations, it has spectacular visuals, there's lore, story, and even voice acting.
With this much disruption between the astral realm and the physical world, the void is entering our land. It's time to release the artificial relics on the clans.
But, sir, the clans are vile.
It certainly doesn't stink like your usual NFT scam. There's also two names mentioned in the banner, Peggy Chung and Robert Simons, who seem to be actual artists, so that's cool, because props to them, the visuals look great. If it weren't for the fact that this has ties to NFTs, I would have loved to check out the IP. Unfortunately, however, there are ties to NFTs, and even more unfortunately, they're definitely in it for the long haul. Because unlike Josh Journey, where I can at least assume some level of ignorance or just not full understanding from the devs part on NFTs, these guys absolutely know what NFTs are and are still for it. And if they haven't learnt by now, several years after the explosive decline and aggressive backlash from the entire world that NFTs are hated, then there's no mistaking it. So, let's talk about it. On their website, front and center is an advertisement for their crypto, KDR, that you can buy with these two links. It goes without saying, don't do that. Because other than it being just yet another crypto coin, the value of their crypto coin started at $0.25, yes 25 whole cents, and has only gone down from there. A whole 95.9% decline, assuming this number is correct. I can't confirm, I don't know maths. And of course an NFT collection, can't forget about that. We have 4 of them here, and even though I praised the art previously, I still went with randomly generated slop to sell. By the couple hundreds of thousands of them too. We got journals that go for around 5,863 Expedition 33s, the Spark suits for 469 Expedition 33s, Spirit Guardians for 82 Expedition 33s, and the actual characters for 14 Expedition 33s. So yeah, unfortunately, they're all in. But what about the game though? Surely with all this money from NFT sales and a seed funding of $5 million, surely the game is still being developed, right? It can't be abandoned like every other game, right? Well, to that, I don't know. Kaidro is only being released on Steam, at least that's all clicking the game tab goes to, and there hasn't been any updates or news added. The discussions are dead, with someone asking if the game is still being developed in early January, but nothing from the developer, with the only response being from a fellow player that claims that the demo doesn't even work. Which, I swear to God, I hope they're joking. But on their Twitter, they do post tweets about the demo/playtest, and it was pretty recent too, mid-July. So I hope it's working and they haven't just abandoned the game. I mean, what kind of developer would just shill out a crypto coin, several NFT collections, get millions in seed funding to just abandon the game? That would be crazy, right? Alright, let's check out this open beta demo playtest. We get treated to an animation. It's the same one as the trailer, although for some reason it will just freeze randomly, like here. I thought I crashed, but no, it's just lagging, I guess? It happened again here too. I didn't know it was possible for something like this to happen, yet here we are. Anyway, since it is just the trailer, I skip it, and we have to sign up, because of course we do, for this open beta demo. And here we are. We get a mech and a creature. We get approached by the operations officer, and I'd like to reiterate, I really do like the art design. It looks solid. There's no voice acting, but Kyoko talks to us, painfully slowly I might add, and refers us to Bob, this little friendly drone. Then we finally have control. A look around the menus and not much works. We have no character, the leaderboard button links to an external site, we can't join a clan, and the UI is really small. There's a bunch of servers here, but I stick with the US since I imagine it would be the most popular. This none button doesn't work. The astral button goes to the creature menu, which we can't do anything in. The skill description button works, but nothing else. And finally, the mech button. Bob talks to us and we get introduced to another character, Sydney, who just kinda leaves us alone. And then we get to the mechs. There's a lot of options here, but we have nothing. Not even any extra starter gear. Also look, if I click the buttons too much, the menu just refuses to change. I guess the game got mad at me. We can change our chassis, but we still don't have anything. And I clicked this button, which I didn't know was even a button, and we opened what I assumed to be a loot box. I get an item, I think, but it doesn't appear in the menu. So did we actually get one? Or did I just get trolled by the game? I can't even click the button again, even though it says I still have 3? Damn. For an open beta, Kaidro is not looking too good. Usually open beta means the full release is on the horizon, but I don't think this is even close to being ready. It feels more like an open pre-alpha since nothing works. This faction pass button doesn't do anything, neither does the clan path button, so I just say screw it and begin searching for a match, which does work. Temple Sentinel, no idea what it is, there's no tutorial. And then I just waited, and waited. At this point, I just got up and went to the toilet, ready to apologize to my future teammates for me being AFK. But nope, 7 minutes waiting around and not a match found. So I stop and choose 3v3 instead. Maybe I'll have better luck there. And so, once again, I waited, and waited, and waited. Yeah, I don't think this is gonna happen. There's no bot lobbies and there's no training, tutorial, match things I can set up. As of right now, this is Kaidro. I mean, this potentially could be the greatest game of all time. It could also be the worst game of all time. Who knows? No one can play it. And looking at the Steam DB page for this demo, literally no one is playing this game. And I can say that, since this is the only version of Kaidro that exists. There's no other platform this is on. So that's Kaidro. At least it didn't crash, so eat your heart out, Metados. And that is that. I don't really have much to say except, I'm sorry. I, for some reason, didn't think that there would be that many unplayable NFT games, to the point where 2 out of the 3 games in this video would just not work, and that the only game that did work was still a massively buggy mess. But welcome to the NFT game landscape. Crazy to think how even though there really isn't that many NFT games, compared to non-NFT games anyways, the percentage of broken, unplayable NFT games is insanely high. It's pretty wild. Man, do I wish Steam Greenlight was still a thing. Anyone remember that? Back when there was at least a non-zero chance for moderation on the platform. Anyways, that's all for today, but before we end the episode, I wanted to do a shout out to Toast, who became a member of the channel. Yeah, that's a thing that I have. For however much money per month, you too can become an anti-NFTer. It's kind of like anti-vaxxer, except it's not harmful or stupid. So it's nothing like being an anti-vaxxer actually. But thank you so much, Toast. It's truly an honor that you would throw money my way. Your support directly helps me to continue making these videos. And it actually is completely optional. So for anyone else who wants to do the same, feel free to do so. I would greatly appreciate it. Alright, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like and a sub if you did, and I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!